This is Basket Case Clubs, CPR Group's podcast where we turn basket case clubs into showcase clubs. Hello everyone and welcome back to Basket Case Clubs. I'm Michael Connolly and happy 100th birthday!
Yay! Greg goes wild.
I hope those are fireworks and party poppers and there's not the exploding bus in the background.
Not the 4th of July celebration in the United States. Yeah.
Oh gosh, it's been fun, Steve. Basically...
Not that it's coming to an end.
No. But basically what this means is that...
This is not a eulogy.
This is our 100th time of bitching about all the funny shit that goes on in clubs and ideally coming up with resolutions.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, I didn't finish introducing myself. I'm still Michael Connolly, and it's still my pleasure to be guiding you on this 100th journey of basket casey goodness. And welcome, as usual, Steve Connolly.
Thank you for having me for the 100th time. And yes, there have been some episodes where we both haven't featured, but let's just, for the purpose of this episode, tell everyone that we've been doing this for 100 episodes.
And just magically pretend that never happened.
And it's probably important to note that when we started this podcast, there was a little thing called COVID happening, and it was a really good way for us to continue to connect with all of you, people out there with whom we love to work. It was also a really good opportunity for us to escape each of our respective families and go and drink red wine or whiskey.
I don't need to escape my family, just for the record. I do love my family, Steve. I'm not going to pass any judgment about you and yours.
But during COVID, a little break was welcome with kids who were homeschooling for the first time.
Mine are a bit older than yours, remember?
Yeah,
and they all took it well and
That's true.
Yeah, okay, so now I'm getting a little bit of an insight into Steve's homeschooling days.
Yeah. Ask yourself why I'm not a teacher.
I thought you were going to say, ask me why I'm an alcoholic. But I remember that. Yes, it did start. And I think by the time we'd do our episode prep, our ep prep, it'd be like 9 o'clock on a Tuesday night, sitting in here with a glass of red.
Yep.
Gee, a lot's changed since then.
It wasn't all bad, was it? Yeah, COVID was great. Silver lining.
Silver lining. So why did we start the podcast and why did we call it Basket Case Clubs? What's your memory like?
Well, I remember that we were conscious of including in the discussion showcase clubs as well, because we didn't want it to just come across as us whinging and bitching about all the crazy things that happen in clubs. So we set out to create a podcast in which, yes, we would address the crazy things that we see happen in clubs and the traps that volunteers fall into in making their own lives more difficult than they need to be sometimes, and also the misbehaviour of members that leads to committee members stepping away. But we also wanted to showcase some of the great things that we're exposed to in our work with clubs and the awesome initiatives that volunteers do put in place to make their clubs better, their lives easier for themselves, and the services that the clubs deliver better for their customers and members. So to share the love, to put the word out that, all is not lost. If you're in this situation, you could follow a successful journey to redemption, and you could become a showcase club. Exactly. You don't have to always be a basket case club.
Exactly. And I think that's why we put that in the little intro. Because we do try and help basket case. Yes, we do try and help basket case clubs become showcase clubs, but it's not my preferred starting point. My preferred starting point is talk to us before you get in the shit.
Yeah.
Like act early, and it's prevention because you're just not making the dumb decisions. And a lot of what we've talked about 99 other times is about how a dumb decision has led to a bad outcome. And A, what you can do to fix it if that's what happens, but B, and more importantly, what should you do or how should you behave to avoid it in the first place?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, what are the common traps to avoid? And also I think to provide a bit of a sounding board for our listeners. And I think that for many people in committee roles particularly, it can be a pretty isolating job. It can be a pretty isolating task. It's thankless. You're often the one thanking other people for helping out here and there a couple of times a year, but it's pretty rare for you to get thanked. And you can often, this is certainly something that I experience in our work directly with organisations, is people say, I didn't know that other clubs were struggling with the same problem. I thought this was just me.
It's never just you. That's probably a really good lesson. Everyone who thinks I'm on my own here and nobody else is struggling like this, you're not alone. There are so many other clubs that have been through this. And in business as well, I remember when we used to think, oh, we must be the only consulting firm that's having this struggle. I broadened my network a little bit and went, turns out we're not alone. And clubs are exactly the same. Every club goes through a continuum of growth. They're on a journey of growth and maturity. And you kind of find that because of the nature of the way that, particularly when we talk sport, the way that sport is expected to run in this country, there's kind of expectations. We get elected to the committee, we do the hard slog, we get the free shirt, we crack the shits, we leave, we come back because no one else can do it. So you bloody bastards don't know how to run it. So let me back in and I'll be the knight in shining armor and say, and then eventually the transition occurs when they grow too big to know we can't do this all on our own. We need some more support. We've got to look at outsourcing. And eventually you get to a point of being better. Sometimes it doesn't feel like you're better when you're on the journey, but you turn around and look over your shoulder and you say, actually, we have come a long way. It feels like we're always on this Sisyphean slog to climb the mountain, pushing the proverbial uphill. But then you look over your shoulder and say, we are a lot bigger than we used to be. We have a lot more facilities, a lot better equipment. We have better systems and processes. We've now got better ways to engage our people, be they volunteers, coaches, members. We got better marketing. Our messaging is clearer. We fixed our logo. We've now got a website. Like, clubs do get better. It's just sometimes difficult to see that and to feel it as you go through the slog. So it's nice to reflect and look over your shoulder and say, how are we better? And that's where I want to go in this episode. Did you know, Steve, that 10 times 10 equals 100?
My maths isn't great, but that's one of the times tables I'm good at.
Yeah,
the tens, the twos, the fives, and the tens.
Well, not the 12s? I'm a muso, so it's all fours for me. One,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4. Yeah.
Hey, before we go on, so you're going somewhere with the 10 times 10 equaling 100. I want to ask you, what sort of slog up the hill?
Sisyphean.
Go on.
I don't know whether you can actually say that, but thank you for pulling me up just in case you can't.
Do you mean PC wise, or do you mean
No,
pronunciation wise?
Whether Sisyphean is actually a word. So Sisyphus, well, I don't remember whether he was Greek or Italian.
Okay.
He's a mythical character who was sentenced to push a big rock uphill, and every day it would roll back down and he'd have to do it again. So he's just every day he would push the big boulder up the hill and then it would roll back at him. I did see your face kind of do a funny thing when I said that word.
Yeah.
Went, what does that mean?
I'm not letting that go through to the key.
So there's
I've
some
learned
homework.
my new thing for the day. Yeah.
Yeah, but your homework and my homework is to go and see if you can use the word Sisyphean as that would be an adjective, wouldn't it? A describing word.
Yep.
To describe a slog that is enduring and feels like it's never ending, and it feels like you just got to do the same thing and no rewards. So yeah,
A long, hard slog.
like Sisyphus. Yeah.
Sisyphus. Okay. Is it Greek? Is it? Oh, you said you don't know if it's Greek or Italian. Okay.
Steve, I'm
it's
really
mythology.
smart, but my depth of smart is only about an inch deep. Like, it goes very wide. So I can tell you about space shuttles, and I've got a Saturn V sitting over there, and but I can tell you as much as is cool enough to know, man, this is so exciting. And then when it gets to the point where you have to start doing rocket science, which equals hard maths, I go, there's actually something else I need to do now.
Yeah, and you could go and search for that using AI language.
And what's going to be really
choice.
funny is I look it up and his name's going to be, no, it's not going to be Sisyphus. Like, I've just been pronouncing it wrong. It's going to be Sisyphus or something. Anyway.
All right, sorry, we digress, which is so unlike us. I know.
Yeah.
You're
Here we are.
surprised.
After 100 episodes, nothing has changed. So for our listeners, we've just had a break and Jess has done a fantastic job of editing it out. So nobody noticed anything, but I'm going to give you a peek behind the curtain here. While we had a break and Steve had to go and rescue a squeaky toy from one of his noisy dogs at his feet. It's a puppy. It's a brand new dog, cute as anything. In fact, if she's around, you should put her on the screen for anyone who's watching the video of this episode. And he took the opportunity to look up Sisyphus. And it turns out he is Greek. Oh, look at her. What's she got hanging out of her mouth?
Some of the squeaky toy.
She just swallowed it, Steve. That's great.
It's all right. It dropped on the
She
ground.
dropped it. It really looked like she swallowed it then.
It did. All right.
Okay,
Good. We're safe.
We're safe. Yep. Because that would have been funny coming out in the dog poo.
Wouldn't it? Yeah.
So 10 times 10 equals 100. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick the top 10 myths that we've addressed, clubland myths that we've addressed in basket case clubs. And I reckon that these are the top 10 that have stopped clubs from being able to move on that continuum of maturity the most. And I'm going to start with one that was way, way back in the early days. So back in the deep, dark ages of those long, cold COVID nights where we had to really take one for the team and warm up with a nice bottle,
It was terrible.
of Shiraz.
It was terrible.
Nice bottle of Shiraz. That was a Freudian slip there, wasn't it? Anyway, biggest
There were
myth.
two of us.
We should do it like this because that's how we've always done it. I reckon that's probably one of the most dangerous myths that myths and traps that clubs fall into. What do you reckon?
And so many people don't even realize that they're falling into it. That's probably the really interesting takeaway for me when I'm running a session with either one club or with a bunch of clubs in the room, and we talk through some of the sorts of phrases that we hear which indicate roadblock thinking, and this one definitely topping that list. Some people say to us at the end of the session, we had no idea that that's how we were operating. That's our mindset. And it might be something specific like the treasurer doing books in spreadsheets, or it might be something, more sort of broadly applicable to them as an organization, mindset, philosophy, whatever. But this is rife. This is absolutely, something that I think is probably a mindset that has existed, I can confidently say, at least at some stage in every not-for-profit organisation.
Yeah, probably. And I like how you mentioned that we call them the roadblock thinking phrases because they stop you being able to think broadly or think like they just say, we don't need innovation here. It's how it is. We just keep going. So the other two phrases that I like to use, oh no, Michael, we tried that once. Didn't work. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it, which I actually think is the most dangerous. It means, yeah, look, it works well enough. Just don't go messing with it. So what that means is that
we're happy celebrating mediocrity.
Well, we're happy celebrating mediocrity, but it also means that we've got a system or a process for responding to inbound inquiries about, I don't know, let's call it season dates. So not marketing, not sales. We've onboarded new members and there's inbound inquiries about season dates. And we've still got committee members manually responding to every single email. So for the 100th time, a president, and by then they might be going, oh, maybe I can copy and paste the last one. There's automation for that. And by the way, if you know this is going to be a problem, maybe you should have headed it off at the pass by having it on your website beforehand. So,
yep.
So two things. I remember a club that we got to about, I'm going to say 15, 20 minutes into the workshop and I burst out laughing and I felt so bad after doing it. It was because I got the third of those roadblock thinking phrases from the same group in the same meeting and I just laughed and I went, okay, guys, I have to be honest with you. I don't think I made many friends by saying that, but that club did, it's one of those clubs that almost in spite of themselves, they became really successful. And they're now a club that I won't give anything away because I don't want to incriminate the people who said it. That they are now looked up to as the pinnacle of their sport in their region and really successful. I'll tell you off air who it was and you go, oh, of course, that makes sense.
See, we do protect the identity of our informants.
Informants. Yeah, our basket cases. So how do we deal with that? What's the right way for a club to think about this?
Well, I think just quickly I wanted to raise one of the counter arguments, and sometimes I've heard people say things like, "Oh, yeah, but we shouldn't just change for the sake of change," and that's in some cases been vindicated because they have tried something and it hasn't worked. But just because you've tried something once and it hasn't worked doesn't mean that you put the right people in charge or that the environmental conditions or timing was right and
Invested
so
enough
on.
in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so what I often say to counter that, and this is probably partly answering your question, how should we think, is if we're doing things a particular way today and we consider alternatives to that way of doing something, and we agree collectively that we're happy to continue to do it the way we've been doing it, that's okay. What's not okay is simply going blindly into the future and being led by the way that you've always done something. Because we are, as you and I were discussing earlier today, arguably, living through the era or period of the most significant change in all of human history.
Yep. Well, the argument was, is this bigger than the Industrial Revolution? This AI revolution, is it bigger?
Yep. So if your organization is not considering, and you've just touched on something, a really practical example there in terms of automation, if you're not considering new, different, more efficient ways of doing things to make your own life easier and your service delivery better for your customers, then there will come a time when you become obsolete and others take over and do a better job than you and therefore take your people and your members. Yep. So I think, no, we're not just suggesting change for the sake of change, but we're suggesting not just getting stuck in the same old comfortable blanket of the same.
Yep. I promised you 2 points, and the second one rounds that out nicely, where I was with the treasurer and a president a few weeks ago, and the treasurer was saying why their books are like they are, because it was really weird. For instance, they had their their head of coaching, and I'm choosing my words carefully so I don't give away the sport, because if I give away the sport, because we've spoken about it before, people go, oh, that's what's her name? Like their head of coaching wage was included in a line item in the financials called admin. Now, that's actually an on-field expense, not an admin expense. So I've got this massive admin expense that's not actually relevant. And I said to them, so why is that? Oh, well, we've got this system where that's set up. And I said, if you were setting up this chart of accounts, would you set it up like that? And she said, shit, no, of course not. Oh, so you just fallen into step, because that's how it had always been. That's what she inherited it. So, yeah, challenge everything. That's a really respectfully.
But that's a really good way to codify it. Is if we were setting this system up, or if we were doing this thing for the first time ever, is this the way that we'd do it?
So rarely is the answer yes. But it can, when it is, great. Move on. So on to myth number 2. We're not allowed to make a profit.
And this is a doozy. This is such a doozy. And it's when you put it like that, people will often identify that it's a silly notion. Of course. And as soon as we start to explain the reasons that, I just got distracted because I thought, did we do the busting of the myth number 1? But I think we kind of did. We just didn't do it really.
Really no, we did. I don't think we can say busting of the myth, because that might say that we're riding on the coattails of a show called those
something along those lines.
Myth busting.
So that's a real doozy. We're not allowed to make a profit, and we hear variations on that concept. Things like we can't have too much money in the bank, we can't make too much profit. It's a really stifling concept, and even this is the really interesting thing about this point. Even when we work with an organization directly, and when let's say we're having a planning session, or we're having a strategic discussion with a committee, and we talk about the real definition of not-for-profit, which we'll come back to, and they tell us they understand it, and they say, yeah, we get it, we know what the real definition of not-for-profit is. Minutes later, we will then be witness to a discussion that they're having, and they will be held back in making the right decision by this notion that we're not allowed to make a profit, or some variation on that concept. It's just, if I cast my mind back even to when I was playing football and we were sponsored by a local bowls club, and sometimes the bowls club would sponsor us a reasonable amount of money, like
I
maybe
thought you were going to say a
$10,000.
reasonable amount of beer then.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why they were sponsoring us. They were happy to have us, and they probably made far more than the money they gave us back over the bar. But there was this interesting comment made one year when they'd given us, let's say, $10,000. It was a big chunk of money. And someone said, oh, yeah, the Bowls Club can't have any more than $1 million in the bank. So when they get to $1 million in the bank, they've got to start giving money away to other local not-for-profits. And, of course, because I do this work, I was able to really take notice of that comment and ask that. I can't remember what the outcome of the conversation was, but I remember digging into why that person had thought, and it was probably just that maybe someone had said that in those exact words, or maybe someone had said something a little different, and the good old Chinese whispers have, led to the manipulation in their mind of what it actually meant. But it was really fascinating that they said it with such conviction, and they were so confident that, it means they can't have any more than $1 million in the bank. Then they got to start giving money away to people like us, which is great. I'm not going to question it.
Yeah. Remember, I forget his character's name, but Samuel L. Jackson in The Long Kiss Goodnight. He says, you got to be careful you don't make an assumption, because if you do, you make an ass out of you, an umption. And that's where so much of this comes from. Like, we're making asses out of us, an umption, because we're just assuming that what somebody else has told us is correct without actually going and checking it. So not for profit, I would love to change the term. I think that ship has sailed. I don't think we're going to be able to go and change the term. The name is dumb. All it
Just
means,
quickly, what would you change it to? Because this is a really interesting discussion that we get a lot of passionate buy-in to.
what would I change it to?
I've got an idea, and I think that it's one I've stolen from you.
All right. Well, tell me my good idea then.
PFP, profit for purpose. If we make a profit, there's only one thing we can do with it, and that is deliver on our purpose. Why were we established? What are the objects in our constitution? What's our purpose for existence? All that we can do is invest our profit in delivering on that purpose. And when I say that, people's eyes light up, and it's generally treasurers, and they know that they're going to use that to advocate for their organisation becoming more bloody financially sustainable so they can be here in 50 years to do the great work that they do. So I agree. It would be great if we could change the term from not-for-profit to profit for purpose, but ACPFP doesn't really work. And I think you're right. The ship sailed. Anyway.
And look, the other thing is, though, that I often say it's a business model. So, and I think it's a wonderful business model. I talk about the self-limiting factor of not-for-profitness, which means that because all of the money that we keep as surplus needs to get reinvested back into what we do, it means we will, if we do a good job, when we do a good job, we're going to have better facilities, better equipment, better services, cleaner dunnies, better people, more people, better marketing, better digital footprint, better continuity, better communications, because we've got the resources.
Profit is where growth lives. Without profit, if you're not making a profit, your organisation is or will very soon be going backwards.
Yep.
If you ain't growing, you're dying.
Yep.
So the real definition of not-for-profit is that your organisation exists not for the profit of its members. You cannot distribute the profits that you make amongst your members.
Like
that's all it means.
Shareholders getting a dividend.
Exactly.
And then, and look, this is actually for-profit businesses that do this better are the better for-profit businesses, because they're the ones that don't just go and pillage all of the surplus out of the business. They leave it back in there as working capital, money for next year. And I often say, if you want to do more next year than you did this year, you're going to need more money. So get more money. Tell you what, Steve, we're going to have to crack on, because we're only through 2 and we're almost at the end of the episode. So I'm going to get to number 3 now. The president is the boss.
And that's true. The president is the boss of the meetings, but not the club. And there's a really common misconception.
Yep.
Often held by presidents.
And look, I'm going to now ease into another one here and say, and we'll call this a separate one. The president can't vote.
Yeah.
So let's deal with these two myths together.
Good idea. So the president is the boss of the meetings, and they act, if they're around, if they're present, in attendance, they act as the chairperson of the meeting, and they maintain order and they keep people in line and they ensure that the meeting follows the agenda. It starts on time, finishes on time, and so on. They are the boss of the meeting. However, there's often this, as you rightly connect the two, I think, myth that the person who is the chairperson can't vote. They don't exercise a primary vote when it comes time to make a decision unless there's a tied vote. And then they've got a casting vote and they can exercise that only to break the tie.
Sometimes that might actually be in the Constitution.
Sometimes,
in my experience, it's rare. And again,
that's a good point.
People making asses out of them and umption because they're just assuming that it's how it is for everyone, and it's just not.
That's exactly right. It is not the case for the majority of clubs. So
busting the myth, the president's not the boss. Who's the boss?
The members.
Ultimately, yes.
Of the club. Yeah.
Yep. Because the members make all the big decisions. From among the members, we elect a committee of leaders to make the day-to-day decisions and make things run.
Yep. There's an interesting and important point to be made here, though, which is that exactly as you just said, we elect that committee from amongst the members, and we elect that committee to make most of the decisions. So the members need to make the really important ones, like who's our committee,
changing the name,
what's our name. Absolutely. Are we going to wind up? Are we going to become one and the same with another club? But most decisions should be made by that group of people, the committee, who are elected to make decisions on behalf of everybody else.
Yep, definitely. So I think that there's two parts to that. The president is the boss of the meetings, not the boss of the club. And the president, as a committee member, gets the same voting rights as committee members, as all committee members, unless specified otherwise in the Constitution, which, as we said, is rare. Now that we're talking about constitutions and meetings, I'm going to go to the next one. We need to advertise our AGM in the local newspaper, maybe even as specifically as the public notices classified section of our local newspaper, 28 days before our AGM.
And again, if your Constitution says that, it's time to change your Constitution, because you're not notifying your bloody members. You're notifying everyone who reads the paper. Oh, wait, which is probably nobody.
Yeah. What's a paper?
Yeah. So this is probably less common than some of the others that we've tackled so far.
But the reason I wanted it in the list is that when I'm in a session and I'm talking about the amount of assumptions that go on in clubs, I ask the question, how many days before the AGM did you need to put an ad in the paper? And people aren't arguing with me about whether you have to put the ad in the paper. They're arguing about how many days. Is it 7? Yep. Is it 21? Is it 42, 48, 40, 20, whatever? And then rarely somebody will put their hand up and say, Michael, do we need to advertise in the paper? And boom, they get a chocolate.
Yep.
Because no, you don't. Because the paper is for the community.
Yeah.
The AGM is for our community. Who's in our club.
So check your Constitution, but it's very likely that your requirement to provide written notice is only to your members and not to the very few people in your local community who read your paper if there's still one published.
Yep. So I've I've meandered at a leisurely pace through the first 5, Steve.
It's a marathon. It's a race.
Speaking of Greek mythology. Yeah. Anyway, what's number 6?
Hackers don't care about us. They're not interested in our club. Therefore, we don't need to worry about password security, and we could use one password for all of our committee members.
And we don't need to change it, because changing it is because some committee members are new and some are staying on, so it's hard to change it. So let's not bother. And nobody's interested in us. So they get into what are they going to find? We're just volunteers and we're only not for profit.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly why hackers are very, very interested in you, because you don't think they are.
And you do have some money. Might not be as much as BHP Billiton, but you've got enough to make some little scammer somewhere in, I don't know, probably a dingy, smelly
basement
room, basement-y type room, like one of those rooms where they hole up in Mission Impossible movies. Sniveling away at their keyboard. I'll get that money. The funny thing is, no, not funny. The sad thing is, you and I have got stories, real stories of clubs with poor password security on their emails because they don't think it's important, and they've been hacked. And then
the complete lack of protocol. as
Yeah, the
well.
fraud has been expensive.
Yep. Yep. Can I tell the quick one about the football club where the
Go for it.
president got an email? We've talked about this, but for those who haven't stuck with us through the marathon of the first 99 episodes,
Hang on, if you haven't, pause now, go and listen to the rest of the 99 and then come back. We'll wait.
you're not allowed to carry on beyond this point until you've listened to all of them.
We will wait
And
for you. Steve, where's that red wine gone?
yeah, the president got an email from the treasurer saying, "Hi, I'm going to change the name for anonymity purposes. I wonder if I change it to the same name as last time. Barry.
I was
Barry.
going to say Barry.
Wow,
Oh,
we
gee.
must be brothers or something.
Or his name really is Barry.
I definitely know it's not Barry.
Quick PSA. Sorry, Baz.
Yes. So a quick email from the treasurer. Could you pay this, Barry? I've gone in and I've set up the transaction. All you got to do is approve it. $1,800. So Barry goes in and approves the payment without question. He gets another email soon thereafter from the treasurer. Barry, could you please authorize this payment for $7,500? And only then did the alarm bells start ringing in his mind. And he called the treasurer and said, "What's this? I've just paid the first invoice for $1,800. What's the second invoice for $7,500?" And of course, the treasurer replied with, "What invoices?" So he got duped, and they didn't get the money back because it was an EFT payment. It wasn't a payment on a card on the Visa or MasterCard or Amex networks. So they lost the money. They lost the $1,800. Luckily, he picked the phone up before paying the $7,500. That story rather becomes even more fascinating when I tell you that Barry is a detective. So of all the people who shouldn't get duped,
Yep.
he's probably top of the list, yet he
Yep.
did. So that's a level of sophistication where the hacker got into the treasurer's email account through, pretty
Poor password security on the
Yep.
email account. But then when you're in the
Absolutely.
email account, when you go and reset your multi-factor authentication for access to the bank, where do they send it?
Yep.
To the email.
Yep. Went and found names on the club's website.
Read-
Easy to
Read the way that you communicate, "Hey Baz," or "Hey mate." Like
Yeah.
it was it was too easy. So you're lucky because the club that I was working with at exactly the same time, same scam, $19,000, and they also got nothing back.
Yep. So that's one level of sophistication. But then when we tell you that there's also intercepting hacking that's happening, whereby an actual supplier will send an actual invoice to an actual club email address, but on the way there, an actual hacker intercepts it and changes the bank details, and puts on the invoice, "Please note our bank details have changed," because it's a supplier that they've been paying for some time, and forward it on to the original intended recipient, only for them to put the money in the wrong bank account. So pick up the phone. Hackers are interested in your club.
So to bust the myth, to bust the myth, what we need to do is be diligent with our password security.
Yep.
Just as diligent as you are at work, because at least as diligent as you are at work, because not only are you dealing with your money, you're dealing with your members' money. This is public money that you are accountable for. Don't lose it to stupidity just because you don't think it's important. It is important. It is really important. Those stories are real, and unfortunately those stories are not isolated. And just because those stories are going back a couple of years or 4 years,
It'd be more than 5 years now.
Anyway,
So
it is
the
still
level of
happening today.
sophistication, yeah, and it's only getting
Yep.
more difficult to pick up. I want to throw another quick one in here as a bonus, which is the discussion that we had in a recent episode, within the last 99 though, about organizational email addresses. So not allowing individuals to use their personal emails, and that what you just said about multi-factor authentication and the level of control and security that your club can exercise over its information contained in email correspondence is significantly undermined if you're allowing people to use their own old Hotmail accounts, if they've still got one, or Yahoo Mail, and it's the same password that they've had for the last 30 years.
Yep. Nice. What's number 7?
We are not allowed to employ people.
Of course we're not. We're not for profit, and we're just volunteers, and all not-for-profits are run by volunteers, and volunteers are the only people who can work for a not-for-profit.
Good, we can move right along then. No, this is a myth. This
It is a myth.
absolutely
It
a
is a
myth.
myth. Yes. So like I said, a not-for-profit business is just a business model. It's a good business model because of the reinvestment, but it's just a business like any other business. So the structure, what we can do with the money changes, but we're an employer. Simple as that. And by the way, there are some very, very big not-for-profits in this country that do employ people. Let me pick out the Leukemia Foundation, the Cancer Council, Surf Life Saving Australia. These are Royal Life Saving. These are big organizations that are charities, and those that are doing medical research, for instance, like the Cancer Council, they're not all volunteers, mate. Like there are a lot of people, a lot of very, very highly qualified, committed people who are devoting not their lives, but their, well, not only their careers, but their lives to saving those of others. And they might not get paid as much as they would if they'd gone and worked for Big Pharma, but they're doing it because they believe they have purpose and they want to put that purpose behind where they work. And absolutely, they get paid and they should get paid and they should be well compensated for the work that they do. So, again, the better business that you run, the better service you offer to members, you're offering to your members. That's the value proposition, baby. That's what you're giving to them. That's why they come. That's why they keep coming back.
And even if you are a very small club and you are not as sophisticated as some of those national charities that you just mentioned, you are still able to employ people. So it doesn't matter how big you are. It doesn't matter what your turnover is. If you are able to build a structure within which you're able to sustainably pay people to do the shit that volunteers don't want to do, and sometimes that's literally cleaning the dummies, as we've discussed. But it might also be more practical and you know, look, I'm not having to dig at people who clean dunnies for a living, but maybe, I say this because I can do that, there are some roles that might be more highly in demand, that might require a greater level of qualification.
Just while you're struggling there, Steve, how
Digging
about
myself into the toilet bowl.
Here, let me throw you a rope. So, do we want the person who might come up with a cure for pancreatic cancer spending time away from the microscope because she has to clean dunnies? Or
Thanks.
do we want her behind the microscope finding the cure to pancreatic cancer?
I'm going to be honest, and I thought you were going to say that's yes, we want that person behind the microscope. But what I thought you were going to say is that we don't want the person cleaning the dummies who's also flipping the burgers.
Oh, thank goodness for hand sanitizer. Isn't it funny, all the gin distilleries that turned into hand sanitizer makers and going back to COVID days, only to find out that people wanted gin more than they wanted hand sanitizer.
Essential service.
Yeah,
Essential
yeah, yeah.
service. Yep.
Oh, that was funny. That was funny.
Yep. So you can pay people. You may decide not to, but given the significant and sustained decline in volunteerism in Australia, I reckon there's going to come a time where you need to talk seriously about it.
Oh, we're talking about this a lot. So the busting here is all in when you pay people, when that time comes for you. And it might not be in your tenure, that's fine. But when your organization chooses to pay people, do it right. Don't try and cheat the system. Don't pay under award. Don't pay cash out of the till. Don't try and make people become contractors and give you an ABN so that they're not employees. Don't just think that the hobby form, the statement by supplier form from the ATO, is going to get you off scot-free for somebody who's actually doing systematic and regular work for your organization. That should be paid, because you're going to get stung. And just because you're just a not-for-profit and you're just volunteers does not mean that when you screw over an employee and mistreat them or treat them unfairly, that they shouldn't go to Fair Work Australia and come back on you and say they were unfairly dismissed, they were treated poorly, you committed wage theft, and you didn't pay them superannuation, you didn't pay them work cover, and they were injured. And like this is not, oh my God, what if that was happening? No. This shit happens all the time.
Yep.
And I struggle to have sympathy for the people who made the bad decisions. The writing was right there in front of you. It's all, and it's been here. We've talked about this here. We've talked about the importance of doing it right. We dug
Yeah,
into,
Basket Case Club's listeners did the right thing.
they all did the right thing. Congratulations to both of you, mum and dad. Oh,
Oh
time to
dear.
move on to number 8. We're on the home stretch, Steve.
Oh, good. All right. If we increase our fees, we're going to lose people.
Let me start a story on this one. So I remember I told this story earlier today. It was kind of funny as I was reminiscing on this club. So I'm sitting there, and I was filling in for Chris when he was away. One of our colleagues was away, and he said, "Oh, you'll be fine. Go and sit in that meeting." And I don't think Chris certainly did, but I don't think anyone was expecting me to throw curly ones at them like I did. And they were talking through the struggles that they've got financially. And in this club, look, to paint a picture of how immature they were on that continuum of maturity. And I say were because they don't exist under this format anymore. They didn't last because they didn't take our advice, because they didn't do what was right. And I asked the treasurer, so how are things going financially this year? And he said, "Oh, I'll tell you when the books come back." And I went, "What? How could you not know? How could you not be able to tell me exactly how you are today? How much money have you got in the bank? Oh,
Oh,
I'd need to go and check. Can you go and check? Oh, I don't have the login details. You're the treasurer." It was bad, bad. It was bad, bad. And by the way, this club, we were there. We had been asked to go and help them. They didn't reach out to us for help. We were
right.
asked to go and help them. So, like, because most groups, when they say, "Hey, we're in trouble, can you come and help us?" they listen because they know. It was basically palliative care for this group by this time,
Mm,
and our recommendation was no, 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 don't renew the lease, don't give it back to them, and that was the case, and things are now different here. But I
yep.
remember when it got to the bit about the value proposition for members, and we're talking about how they're such a wonderful club, and all their members drive past so many other clubs to get to this club, and they had fantastic facilities, none of which they had contributed to. It was all grant funding, cocktail
Yep.
funding from three levels of government to give them these great facilities that they squandered. And in trying to help them improve their financial position, I didn't say you should put your fees up because that's a red rag to a bull. I said, so what do you think might happen if you put your fees up? And there was one of the committee members who said, "Oh," she sat back in a chair at the end of the table and said, "Oh, our members would leave," shaking her
Mm.
head like this. "No, our members would leave." And I leant in and I said, "When was the last time you tried it?" She said, "What do you mean? What do you
1989.
mean? What do you mean? When was the last time you tried?" So you say members will leave. How do you know they'll leave? "Oh, I just know they'll leave." Have you even asked them if they'll leave? And have you tried it? So to give you some context, these guys were charging about 60% of what the average in the league was, about six of the average in the league. So they were way down there in in
Mm,
fees, way up there in facilities, but because their fees were low, they could deliver a crap service.
yep.
They could not compete when it came to quality of service, quality of coaching, quality of cleanliness of the facilities. And people weren't sticking their hands up to volunteer. Do you know why? Because they had no money to pay people to do the shitty jobs that paid people should do. That it's not okay to. And a shitty job can be everything from cleaning the toilets after an event through to doing the entry level data entry work for bookkeeping. Now, it's not a bad job and it's not an unimportant job. It's just not the right job to get a volunteer who wants to get meaning out of their job. And by the way, there are companies that do both of those services day in, day out, where people, and I speak to these people like can you believe it? I'm a chatty type of person, and so when the cleaners are in our building and we get talking, it takes me a lot longer to get away, and it takes them a lot longer to do their cleaning because we're having a good time catching up. They love their job, and they love their job because they get to occasionally talk to people like me when I'm late to leave the building and I'm nice, but they don't have to deal with wankers in an office. They don't
Yeah.
have to deal with front facing customers. They don't have to try and sell anything to anyone. They just get in, they clean the skid marks, and they go home. They love it. So let's let them love it. Let's not take that away from them. And by the way, when they're getting to do what they love, and we've done a good job of improving our fee structure, and I'm not saying jack up your prices just just because. It's
Yep.
about understand your value proposition, understand what you're actually worth, and charge appropriately for it so you've got a sustainable business model. And oh, it's just so It's just so powerful.
I've been saying this a lot more lately, and the phrase is remember that your work is someone else's play. So for me, I don't want to clean skiddies off a toilet bowl. I want to talk with people in an office or in a club.
Yep.
But for the cleaners that you mentioned, yeah,
Yep.
their
The skitty doesn't
enjoyment.
talk back. That's not a
The
line I
best.
thought I would be saying in this episode, by the way. The skitty
Funny how
doesn't
often
talk
that
back.
happens in our podcast, isn't
Oh, I wonder if we should make that the episode title. The skitty doesn't talk back.
it?
Might be lost in translation for our international listeners.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So,
I
yeah,
think you're talking about Dan Martell. Is it Dan Martell who said that in his book Buy Back Your Time?
sure is.
So I'm working with Dan Martell at the moment, as you know, and I wanted to reflect on something that he says. That he said in the call that we had last week.
Yep.
If you have a problem that can be solved by money, you don't have a problem. You just need more resources, and the problem goes away.
Yep.
So how do we get those resources? We structure things correctly. Like that's so
Because you can
powerful.
make a profit.
Yeah, and
Yes.
look, and Dan's talking to me and a bunch of entrepreneurs building businesses,
Yep.
and I went, well, that applies exactly the same to all of our not-for-profit clients. You don't actually have a problem. All you need is to get more resources. How do we get more resources? Take
Yep.
a step back and consider if we were setting up from scratch, how would we do it? Oh, we price like that because that's how we've always priced it. Go back to myth number one.
It's like a choose your own adventure story.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. Yeah.
We're
So
almost there.
where are we going? What number are we up to?
9.
9. All right. Do you want me to take this one?
Yep.
Well,
Because I don't want to do all the work.
that worked really well. So this myth is that it's normal for me to do all of the work because I'm on the committee. So committee members get to do all the work. And when you get to do all of the work, you also get the shirt and the cap to go with it. But that's the privilege. You get to do all of the work.
And that's the way it's always been.
And that's nice. And I still see this. I was cautious about the photos that I posted at the time, but I was at tennis with Ethan about 6 or 7 weeks ago, and tennis courts are all here, oval behind the tennis courts, car park behind me, and so I noticed some people wandering through with clip block boxes and like obviously sporting gear wrapped up in
So they weren't in
canvas covers.
detective-looking suits with
No,
FBI
they didn't have
and
squiggly things
yellow.
in their
Yeah.
ears. No, and carrying stuff over. So it was the local little athletics club. And these were the volunteers who'd turned up early to set up for sign-on day. So they had some gear so that the kids could come and try little
Yep.
athletics. And they had tables and they had sign-on forms. Sign-on forms. Yes, really, sign-on forms.
Hard copy sign-on forms in their
Yeah,
clip lock
outside in
boxes.
the wind. Yeah, like so on my desk here, I've got a computer, an iPad, and a phone, all of which I can do sign up if you've got an electronic sign up form for me. I don't need a piece of paper.
That someone
Anyway,
then needs to go and manually enter into the
yep.
system.
Yeah, again, we're introducing the opportunity for human error there. And
Wow.
what bugged me about this situation was not that we've got people volunteering to do work. It was that every person volunteering to do work had a committee member shirt on. So it was
Yeah.
just an assumption in this club. And to an extent, and I apologize to all of our little athletics listeners, that was hard to say, that in little athletics you get onto the committee to do all of the work, and so then the biggest challenge, and this is another myth if you like, another bonus one, that I we need to get more people to come to the AGM because we need more volunteers. Well, part B of
Because
that statement
yeah.
is right. We do need
Yep.
helpers. We don't need them all to be on the committee. And
Yep.
then when I ask the question, how big's your committee? Someone says, look, luckily we've got a few more this year. I think it's 38 this year. And how effective are your committee meetings? What do you mean? Do you ever make decisions? Do you ever get anything done? Do you ever get it like, is anything different this year than it was last year?
Do you ever keep people for longer than 12 months?
I've got data on that now. And the answer is yes, but it won't be beyond 4 years. So nobody stays.
Yeah.
And unless you've got the people who say, I've been here for more than 10, nobody's staying more than 4. And it's a cliff from 1 to 4. Boom, they're gone.
Because you cooked. You burnt out.
Yeah. And I didn't get fulfillment from the job I was doing. I didn't enjoy it. You asked me to do stuff that wasn't making me exercise any of my passion or my intellect or my altruism. It was just do some shitty task that anyone could have done. Not even I remember one time going to Working Bee, little tangent again, who'd have thunk it? And before anyone asked me what I was good at or what I wanted to do, they said, "Oh, yeah, great to see you. First time here. Well, you can go and shovel concrete blend into the concrete mixer." And me, that every time me used the wheelbarrow to wheelbarrow the barrow full of concrete up to the people who were using the concrete to do concreting. They just had a new water tank in, so this was my kids' school when they were little. The new water tank installed, they were concreting around the edge of it, and then the kids laid tiles in it, little tiles that they'd made. The guys there screeding the concrete were having the best time. They had beer. They were laughing. They were telling jokes. They were having the best time.
And
And
you're sweating.
I barely got a thanks, mate, when I spluttered the concrete in. I thought, I really want to put this on your head, but it probably wouldn't go well. But guess when the next time I volunteered at that school was?
Never.
Never. No, never. I never, ever, ever went back. They treated me like shit. Nobody asked me what I wanted to do. They just assumed that I would just.
Oh, you're a
And
big burly bloke. This guy should be the one shoveling the cement and wheeling the barrow.
the wiriest dad there. Anyway, and to bring it back now to what we're talking about, unfortunately, that's how we treat committee members. We say, "Oh, good, new treasurer. The barbecue's over there. If you wouldn't mind going and flipping the sausages." I
Yep.
didn't see that in the PD of the treasurer when I took the job on.
Yep.
So the answer here is, yeah, get people, but they don't need to be committee members. You need to have a good structure that says, what do our committee members do? How do we separate governance from operations? And how do we fill both sides? How do we get the right people doing governance and recognize their efforts and reward them? How do we get the right people in operations and recognize their efforts and reward them so that we get the people coming back? And by the way, some of the people in operations are going to get paid for what they do.
Yep.
That's just the nature of where we're heading. Don't fight it. Get on board and start to write your own future. Don't get dragged along kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
And I think
Love it.
that, yeah, and I think that brings us to number 10. What's the final one?
We should never, ever say no to a volunteer. And this is a bloody dangerous one.
Yep.
And in the context of what we've just been discussing, I think it's a really easy one to fall for, because if someone sticks up their hand, we've got to take the help, because the next person might not come along. They might be the last person that ever offers to help to do that job. So I think there are a lot of layers to this one. So we've talked about hackers and we've talked about clubs being defrauded of money, but that doesn't always happen from behind a screen. And we know of sadly, many organisations that have been defrauded of, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that has been allowed to happen because the wrong person got into a volunteer position and they got their hands on the money and they bullied other people out. And this is an extreme example. This is at one end of the spectrum, and I acknowledge that. But this is how bad it can get.
Yeah.
Look, we talk about member protection, child protection. We talk about financial protection. So there are so many reasons that you should not simply say yes to anyone with a pulse to get on your committee.
We unfortunately had to deal with this quite significantly through the program we worked on with the Queensland government at the end of last year and the start of this year, is when we did this part. And it was about fraud protection. And the training program that we put together went through why it happens, why and how it happens. The why is quite sad. Very often the people who are stealing money have an addiction.
Yep.
How it happens is unfortunately very similar. And we've just come out of a case this year, like 2 months ago, where again, the lady's gone to jail because her and her husband were stealing the money, and to the tune of 350 grand in this case, from a small club. I'm not even going to say the sport because it's sad. And the signs were the same. And when I was talking to the CEO of that sport, saying, I'm going to explain something to you. Before you tell me what's going on, I'm going to explain the signs as we see them. And as she was listening to me, she said, Michael, do you know this case? Have you seen it? And I said, no, I don't know anything that you're going to tell me now. She said, no, but you've just explained what happened to me.
Yeah, wow.
It was just
It's you're right. It's so common.
yeah, there was an air of entitlement, and then that became that privilege to steal a few dollars here and a few dollars there became a right, and then it just became systematic. And because they weren't, nobody questioned them, nobody said anything because of fear for a number of reasons: fear of my kids not getting selected, fear of them yelling at me, fear of them cracking the shits and leaving, and we really need every volunteer we can get.
Yep.
The rest of the committee didn't say anything,
Mm.
and now they're in strife. Now they're it's. I don't think that club will recover. It was one of the biggest and strongest clubs, despite the fact that it was being eaten out from the inside. Still one of the biggest and strongest clubs in the league. This is not okay. And what's what's really sad about it is that you got to, and this is where I said this, I think last time as well. You got to start from a position of compassion. Like
Yeah.
we are so fortunate that it's stealing money from a club would not even begin to cross our minds. But there
But
are,
that's one of the problems as well, is that the upstanding citizens who are fellow committee members or members
trust
who elect
everyone.
these people, they trust everyone because I would never contemplate stealing money from this club that I love so much. So it doesn't even enter my mind that someone
Yep.
else might do that.
Yep. Yep.
Sorry, I cut you off there.
Oh, and the thing is that the people who are good at it
Yeah.
know that they're good at it, and they get almost found out at one club and then they go.
Yep.
But where do they go? They go preying on the clubs who are susceptible. So clubs that have poor financial oversight, the clubs that have too trusting an environment. And
Mm.
hey, I'm here. I'd love to help. We just moved here from interstate. We're actually running away from the law.
Yeah.
And because they are good at covering their tracks, there's not enough evidence to have them convicted, so they get to do it again. And what's even worse is we started with fraud, but it's not just preying on the financials of clubs. There
Yep.
are also people who have committed systemic child sexual abuses in multiple organizations because they didn't have good protection,
Yep.
just because it wasn't right.
Yep.
So, in
Don't
the
think it can't
interest,
happen to your club. That's
yeah,
probably the big message here too. Yep.
yeah. So, in the interest of fixing it, you must be vigilant. You can never drop your guard. Never think that it won't happen to us. Don't be paranoid, and don't
Mm.
nobody is guilty until proven innocent.
Yep.
Just do your duty of diligence. Do due
And
diligence and ask the questions you need to ask. If something smells funny, put your hand up and say, I need to raise an issue that I'm seeing. And it's
and
not against the
before
person, it's about the club.
yeah, and before things even get to the point of smelling funny, have in place systems that make it such that people can't easily steal money from your club. You
Yep.
know, don't have yawning chasms in your financial or other, member or child protection processes where people can just, filter money easily out of the organization.
Yep.
Make it don't allow temptation to be waved under the noses of those people who
Mm.
might be suffering from addiction, like you say.
Yep. And that's 10. But in the interest of we're talking money and the GST is a thing in this country. So how about we go 10 myths plus GST and we'll do an 11th because that's a bit of a downer. The one I want to finish on is kind of a funny one that I actually heard this year. It was through a program that we're working on where there was a series of sessions and we came back for session 3 and there were a couple of clubs, a couple of different clubs who'd said, "Oh, look, Michael, you keep bringing it back and saying that we've got to run a better business and we've got to do this governance thing better." Well, it's not about governance. It's about the registration program that's annoying, and it's about how much these bloody government departments are making us do this all this child protection crap. It's difficult for parents to sign on because they've got to fill in 2 separate forms. Uh, and we listened, and then when I saw the data that said how administrators from all over the place saying how good they are at things, I pressed them and I said, okay, so here when 90% of you responded to this survey saying yes, we've got a strategic plan and yes, we use it all the time, how many of you were lying? They said, they go, what do you mean? What do you mean? We're not lying, that's not fair. No. So when was the last committee meeting where you pulled out the strategic plan and made a decision based on the long-term vision painted in your strategic plan? Oh, that's not fair. We did our plan. It was a couple of years ago now, and we know it's there. But you said you use it to guide decisions, and you're not. Oh, okay, we're not. Oh, all right. Well, that one, but everything else is fine. It's not about the governance. About hang on. You also said that you've got a budget and you operate according to that budget. Yeah, we've got a budget. We said it at the beginning of the year. And when was the last meeting that you did an actuals versus budget comparison for, I don't know, any department? Pick a department: junior footy, senior footy, canteen, merchandise sales. What you're doing with sponsorship as a separate independent business unit. Oh, well, that's not fair. So the answer was, yeah, okay, it's not about governance because we're not actually doing governance. Governance is this funny word that means the systems and processes by which an organization runs, and it's got to be process based so that it's repeatable and transferable, so we've got good succession. But of course, it runs on the sweat of people. But it's not a fun thing. But for you and I, Steve, governance is our bag. Like, I love this stuff because we understand that for those people who said, oh, it's all about this, the forms and the parents and this, their governance is up the shit because they're not doing it. They don't understand that this is actually a really important part. It's, I'm going to say 50% of the operation of any not-for-profit, but let's stick to sport. 50% of the operation is making sure that the business is humming. The other 50% is making sure the sport is humming. How do we make sure the business is humming? We do our budget, we do our plan, but our plan is supported by our budget. So if we say we've got these grandiose goals of doubling the number of members we've got in the next 3 years, well, we're supporting that by actually putting some money into marketing. Who'd have thunk it? If we say we're going to double our facilities, we're not just going to rely on this magic wand of the government saying, boing, now you can have free facilities and you haven't had to put in a cent. Bullshit, you got to work for it, man. You got to have the behind the scenes systems that make that work. And we know that. And we know that when you get that right, when you get the budgeting side right, when you get your asset management stuff right, when you get your facilities right, when you get your people right, when you engage with your people, your new people, your existing people, you're connecting with them, when you understand the balance of this hybrid staff and volunteer workforce, and you get that right, when you've got great financial management systems, diverse business revenues raising income streams that are considered separately and interdependent of each other, then we've got these kick-ass clubs that have so much money. We've solved all the problems because it was just a money problem. Oh, people can't afford to play football here. Yeah, that's because you don't have enough money. For those people who really, really, really need to have their fees waived or absorbed by a scholarship program, you have to make that happen. Government's not going to do it, baby. Council's not going to do it. It's not they're giving you free access to facilities, and all you do is complain that they mowed the lawn a centimetre too short or a centimetre too long, or shut the field when it was rainy, and we would never have ruined it. But they look after you. They give it to you for free, but they're not going to make it. They're not going to do your business for you. You've got to do the business, and it all comes back to this word that excites. Obviously, I'm up here where the air is getting thin on my high horse. It excites me because I know that this is where growth lives. This is where our great clubs are made when they get this stuff right. And my vision is that oh, I was going to say that we'll never need a job again, but we will. But the vision is that we get people to come along on the journey and to say, oh, it doesn't have to be like it's always been. And if it's been tough for me as a volunteer, for me as a leader of this club, it's okay for me to make changes.
That is probably the most profound takeaway for me from your high horse rant, and that is that these people who say we're all good, it's not about the governance, it's not about the money, are actually making their own lives more difficult. The example of the Little Athletics Club committee members marching in with their clipped together boxes and antiquated paper based systems, that their life is more difficult because they are just trying to cut down the tree with a blunt saw.
They're
They're
doing
not,
what the leaders before them did.
yep, they're not stopping to look at their way of doing things and considering whether things could be more efficient. I would suggest that that's the sort of club that is going to be susceptible to fraud, both via hacking as well as people blatantly stealing money out of the bloody cash tin. So these people are making their lives more difficult, and they're placing the long-term viability of their clubs in jeopardy by
Yep.
not doing good governance.
I love you're alluding to Covey's habit 7 there.
Thank you.
Just stop
Yes,
and
you
sharpen the
saw
bloody
that.
saw.
Yep.
Like Yes, it will take some time to get other people to do that volunteer work so that you can then get back to doing governance. Because, and to quote habit 3, put first things first. If you never get out of the urgent in quadrant 1 or quadrant 3, whether it's important or unimportant, you're never going to get to the actually important stuff that has no urgency to it, which makes it really easy to ignore. It's
Until
not
until it is urgent.
yeah, it's not urgent to fix the constitution
Yep.
until it blows up in an AGM. It's not urgent to do a budget until we run out of money. It's not urgent to look at the bank like that football club treasurer until, again, there's no money left. And then it is. So put first things first. Just take the time that is necessary to sharpen the saw and find those other volunteers and build the right business model. Understand that it's okay to pay people. It's okay to make money. It's okay that the president is just one of the committee members. It's okay to, I already said, to make a profit. It's okay to challenge everything the way we've done it. It's okay to believe that cybersecurity is an important thing. It's like all of these myths that we've busted in now 100 episodes are not here because it's funny or fun, both of which well, certainly fun. I'll leave funniness into the eye of the listener, but but we're doing this because as you just said, Steve, we want to make your lives easier. It's not about making it more difficult by making you do the compliance and paperwork. You get that stuff right.
That we've been ignoring for the last 40 years. Thank you very much. And it's never gone wrong. It's never gone wrong in the past.
Yeah, until you go and have a look at their association extracts and they've been on show cause notice for 11 years.
Yep.
Everything's fine, isn't it, guys? Oh, that stuff's not really important. All we need to do is be able to play cricket.
They haven't shut us down yet.
Okay. Oh, my goodness, Steve. I got to say, after 100 episodes, I don't feel like we're running out of steam.
No, nor things to talk about.
Yeah.
There are going to be plenty more basket casey examples of things for us to rant and rave about.
Yes, and let the basket casey goodness continue. Steve, as usual, this has been an absolute pleasure. Of course, a big thank you to Jess for 100 episodes of wonderfulness in making all of this be able to come together and making us appear like we don't ever make mistakes or bloopers by cutting them all out.
I was wondering whether she was going to suggest that 100 episodes might be the opportunity to share a blooper reel, but we'll leave it to her.
Steve, I have a sneaky suspicion it will happen when we are least expecting it. And we'll say, right, so Jess, we're going to do 101. She's, no, it's already done. We go, yeah. I beg your pardon. So, yes, that will happen sometime. And, the funny thing is, you and I are not going to remember saying those things.
No.
And it's not because we drank too much red wine. It's just because they come and they go and you forget them because we're so focused on getting things right.
Yep.
Obviously, if you're not already following us on social media, make sure you do so. At NFP Michael is my handle. Go and follow me there. In fact, if you DM me, or if you send me a message or a comment on any of my posts that says, what are we going to say? 10 myths. We'll send you a little prize. We'll make sure of it. So find me on social media and send me 10 myths. Message me 10 myths, and we'll get a prize out to you. And visit us on our website. It's still there, cprgroup.com.au. I absolutely love what I do. I learn, I'm spending time with Dan Martell. I had a session with Gary Vaynerchuk last week. It's really cool to expand my mind. And I don't learn that stuff because I need it for my business. I learn that stuff because I need it for you, our listeners. My aim in life is to learn as much as I can and find the shortest path to be able to share it with as many people as I can, because I know that this stuff can help you. It helps me, and I absolutely know it can help you. So I'm looking forward to sharing it more with all of you. Thank you, Steve.
100 episodes, over and out. You ripper.
Onward and upward.
See you for 101.
Bye.
Basket Case Clubs acknowledges the traditional custodians of the country on which we record, being Yugambeh, Turrbal, Jagera and Kabi Kabi land. We recognise their enduring connection to land, waters and culture, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to First Nations listeners.